Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Our speaker today is a native New Yorker who's made the UK her home. She is a multi-award-winning entrepreneur. She's a fierce advocate and role model for entrepreneurs, female leaders, and underrepresented groups. She's written 8 books, and she's enabled hundreds of other people to write their books. Thanks to this woman, over 1,000 amazing people have told their stories and raised their profiles as thought leaders. Today, she's going to discuss the importance of becoming a thought leader and how to do it. Please welcome Mindy Gibbins-Klein.
Thank you. It's an absolute pleasure to be here, and I would love to know how many thought leaders we already have on the call. But I know a lot of people are going to be watching the recording, and they'll be like, me. So please feel free to connect. I've put one of my Twitter IDs right there at the bottom of the slide. And connect with me anytime if you want to discuss thought leadership, and see if you are one. So let's start by talking about the term thought leader, because when I started writing and speaking about this and researching this about 10 years ago, it wasn't such a common term. In fact, when I heard it, I thought there was something wrong with it because I'd never heard it before, and yet there were these lists of thought leaders. So the interesting thing for me was to figure out if there were actually any criteria. So before you call yourself something, you want to know if you qualify, right? So people who want to be a doctor, they do 5 to 8 years of study and more, and they do exams, and you know they've passed the test. People who want to grow in business, they do various qualifications. People do MBAs, personal development, you get certifications. But what about thought leadership? There didn't seem to be any specific way of measuring thought leadership, and yet the term was starting to be used everywhere. So I thought that was really interesting, and I thought we should have some criteria. If you want to play the game, you have to know the rules. So that's where I started. And I think if we want to have a definition, people always say, well, what do you mean by it, Mindy? I will use a variant of the definition that I found at the time 10 years ago when I started researching 24 karat gold. And I discovered that thought leadership meant having the courage to share innovative or creative ideas widely and to be recognized for them. Having the courage to share innovative ideas and being recognized. So there's 3 components. There's the idea, the courage to share, and the recognition. So you might think, okay, great. How exactly do I do it? All right, well, basically, there are only 2 ways of sharing ideas, in my opinion. Writing and speaking. Writing and speaking. Everything else falls into those 2 areas. And that's why I had a very strong interest in it, because of my background of helping people write books, write articles, become speakers. Everything has to do with writing and speaking. Even this video that I'm doing is a form of speaking. So if you want to be a thought leader, you have to be writing and speaking. Let's move on. 24 karat gold, I mentioned it, and it is the place to go if you want to understand my philosophy about thought leadership. I bring in a methodology called real thought leadership. It's an acronym, and I'll go through each of the 4 elements today so that you get some kind of idea, and then you can figure out if you are good or need to be better at certain criteria, certain of these attributes. So that's a picture of me on the top, not smiling. Usually I'm smiling like this, but that's me doing one of the best gigs of my life. Because of the writing and the speaking and the profile building that I had been doing. In 2009, I was invited by the governor of Hawaii to address the International Women's Leadership Conference, 1,000 women in Hawaii. They flew me there, business class. It was lovely. We had 3 days, brilliant event, loads of high-level speakers and me. And I had a really great time sharing with the ladies who come from all around the world about thought leadership. So that's how long I've been working this. And I don't know if there's been a gig to match that. When you become a thought leader, you get a bit picky as well. You think, oh, I deserve to do better and better and more and earn more and more. It doesn't always happen that way. Sometimes things go up and down, but we'll get back to that. So at the bottom picture is me speaking in South Africa, and that was just 3 years ago, so that was a bit more recently. And that was great because I was invited, one of only 2 women in the UK, to join an international team speaking there to South African event planners and getting my message across. This is not to impress you. I'm just trying to give you a bit of background. Show 24 Karat Bold, which is my flagship book on thought leadership, but also impress upon you that without writing and speaking, it's really, really hard to get your message across. So if you are an aspiring thought leader, think about how you have been approaching your writing and your speaking and how you would like to. And if you don't really know what to do, you'll get a few tips on this webinar, and then we'll give you some more things to do after and places to look and find out more. Okay, so most people feel like this. I wanted a picture with a woman on the mountain, but this is one of the pictures from 24 Karat Bold. Have you ever felt like this? Standing there, you've climbed to the top of the mountain, you're saying, hello, here I am, please look at me, please listen to me, and it's very, very hard to get people's attention. That's how most people feel. Most business owners are competing for their clients' and prospects' attention all the time. And it is frustrating when you've spent time, money, and energy getting to the top of your profession or mountain, and people still are not flocking to the door. So if you are a business owner and you feel like this, it's really to tell you you're not alone. I feel like this on a weekly basis. Something happens and I think, really? I've been working it and working it and working it, and you've never really made it. But being a thought leader helps. Being a thought leader gives you an advantage. And what it means is, if you see this guy standing at the top of the mountain, I'll explain it in 2 ways. The first is the fact that if people did look up, they could see him. Everybody else is at the same level, can you see? And yet, if you look up, there's really only one person standing there. That is a major benefit of being a thought leader. Standing up, you will stand out. If you stand up and you climb up the mountain and do the things that will pay off, you will stand out because not everybody does this. So that's the good news. And the other good news is that you can see a lot more clearly. So the word leader comes from the Old English, and it means to show the way ahead, to show the way ahead. I think if you're going to show the way ahead, you need to see the way ahead. And in order to see or see more clearly, you sometimes have to take a couple of steps up, because standing there in the crowd, sometimes you can't even see over people's heads. So hopefully that makes sense, and you see there's a few benefits. The real benefit, of course, is helping people to see you. You could see them, you can see the way ahead, they can see you, and they can see that you know what you're talking about. Hopefully that all made sense. That's a lot of seeing. Unfortunately, a lot of people think, right, I'll write a book. I've been told to write a book. And you see this whole pile of books there, and there's more being thrown into the slush pile. That's throwaway content. A lot of people will say, oh, you've got to write a book to stand out. Not necessarily. When I started one of my book businesses 15 years ago I started the Book Midwife. A lot of people were saying, well, why should I write a book? Why would I want to write a book? Then gradually, myself and others in the industry helped to pave the way for the thought that, oh, actually, you can be an expert with a book. However, it has to be good, in my opinion. It has to be of a certain quality. Otherwise, it won't build your profile and help your reputation. It'll destroy your profile and hurt your reputation. You may know what I'm talking about. I don't like to say negative things. I'm going to allow you to think of a so-so, not such good quality book you may see somewhere. And it's so prolific now. You will see one. If you haven't seen one yet, you will see a scrappy book that somebody has just thrown together because someone said, oh, you just need a book, anything with your name on it. Just think about that. If you are in the process of writing a book, or you are thinking about it, or you know someone who's done it or thinking about it, you may know what I'm talking about. That book is going to have your name on it. That book is going to be out there selling you, and people will assume that that's the best you can do. They will assume that that is your brand. You won't be there to defend yourself. So this is a little warning, and you do not want your book to be thrown onto that pile. If you are thinking of writing a book, or even blogs and articles, if you're thinking of doing videos, if you're thinking of speaking on a stage or producing any thought leadership or content, consider making it good so that it actually will help your reputation, because people will assume that's your best stuff. I think people are looking for substance and direction from you, from any thought leader. I've put these here so that if you feel like tweeting, you've got the whole ready-made tweet. I don't know if you can copy and paste, but I've kept them short. Twitter apparently is extending characters, but I've kept these to 140 just for you. People are sick and tired of all the noise, and they don't need more stuff. We don't just need more content. If you understand the concept of being a thought leader, you will have heard some of the words in the description. Innovative ideas, new, radical, original, exciting, disruptive. I'm going to touch on that a bit later on, because it's not just about stuff. Being a thought leader doesn't mean you produce a LinkedIn article each week. If it doesn't add any value and it's not saying anything new, then it's just an article. It's not thought leadership. Moving on. Here are some of the ways in which you can be a thought leader. It's easy to remember the stuff in red. Become visible and vocal, bold and opinionated. You may be quite opinionated, but don't share those opinions widely. You may be visible, but not for the right things. You may be quite vocal, but it may not have any direction or strategy. So being a thought leader means putting all of these things together and having a strategic approach to being bold. Don't know if anyone's ever said that to you before. I think this is really there to help other people. If you are making a name for yourself, it's probably not just for the sake of it. It's because you want to attract the right kind of clients, employers, partners, business and life partners. You are aiming to attract people by putting out your best ideas. This is what I think. Real thought leaders, we're getting to the real acronym in just a minute, real thought leaders are writing quality books and blogs and articles. They're doing quality podcasts and webcasts and webinars. The videos give real value and content. And when they're speaking, people are impressed. So it's not just stuff. Let's talk about the acronym. So there's only 4 elements that you'll want to remember. You can take your notes very easily, and this is going to be recorded and available. So you can watch it again if you want. If you can bear to watch me again and going through the same stuff. The R stands for reach. No matter what, you probably aren't reaching enough people unless you are independently wealthy and sitting with your feet up and you don't need to attract any more business or opportunities. You probably could do with some more reach. Now, real thought leaders have a certain kind of reach. They have the right reach, so that they're reaching the right people, and they have enough people in their network or tribe. So the way we measure these things, this will give you an idea. On Facebook, if you have a page, it's called likes. They used to call it fans, which I preferred, but you get the idea. On Twitter, it's, of course, followers, and Instagram, followers. YouTube, it's subscribers. If you have an email list, it's subscribers. You could have members if you have a club, or some email lists have members. You get the idea. So how many people do you need to reach? How many people need to know about you and what you do? This number isn't a static number, by the way. Real thought leaders are always adjusting, because there's always that next thing that you want to do. But if you're thinking, I really do need to make a name for myself in my industry, because that's going to help me win the next deal, get a strategic partnership or JV, impress somebody, get my next career move sorted out, people need to know about you and notice you. So you need enough people to know about you. You can't be a legend in your own living room, for example. Well, you can, but you won't have the reach of a real thought leader. So just write down any platforms where you feel you might be lacking. For me, a few years ago when I was teaching this stuff, I wasn't practicing what I preached on LinkedIn. I just had a bunch of people I was connected to there, but I never went on there and looked. I didn't talk to anyone. I didn't post anything. I was wasting my time there. And I decided about 2 years ago to take it seriously, and I've had the most amazing experience on LinkedIn. And of course, it's a professional network, and I prefer that. I like Facebook, but I enjoy the interactions on LinkedIn. People tend to stay professional there. That was right for me. You may need Instagram or even Snapchat or another platform to really make a big splash on that platform. Write it down, take a look, because you know where you could be having a better reach. Okay, so engagement is the other side of reach. Having a lot of people knowing about you, but not engaging is kind of pointless. The word engagement has been overused. I'll tell you what I mean by it. And in the context of real thought leadership, what I mean is people feeling like they have a personal connection to you. If you're the head of a business, and this is something that a lot of people don't understand until they work with this concept. If you're the head of a business, you're not just a figurehead. You're not just a servant leader. You don't just happen to be the founder. Unfortunately, or fortunately, we live in a society where people want that touch point. They want to engage. They want a personal relationship with the founder or the head or the executives in the company. Am I right? Am I right? Do you see how Twitter and some of the other platforms have allowed even CEOs and big personalities, celebrities, and people who run large organizations to interact with individuals? But not just broadcast all the time. That's not engagement. You want to look for ways in which you can engage personally. Now, for me, you already heard a clue. I decided that LinkedIn was a good platform. It's not overcrowded. My inbox, my email, forget it. That is, if somebody sends me an email, it gets buried immediately. But LinkedIn, for some reason, people are not abusing it yet. I engage on there. I go back and forth. I do messages with people one-to-one, and people love it. Yes, I'm the head of my company, and I'm engaging with them one-to-one. When you do a video, if you do these kinds of things, if you do videos, Facebook Live, Periscope, if you do webinars like this, I think even if you're addressing a large group, you are still addressing each person one-to-one. So that's right. I'm only talking to you. How does it feel? Does it feel personal? I hope so. I'm throwing myself into it because engagement is one of the most important aspects of real thought leadership. For me, this is what it's all about. I can have a big reach, lots of people can know about me, but if they don't feel they're connected, if they don't like me, nothing's going to happen. It's a bit of a risk, running your businesses, on the basis that people need to like you, but that's kind of human nature. Isn't it true? People buy from people they know and like and trust. So we're just playing into that. And I'll just finish this bit by saying that good thought leadership means having an engagement strategy. Sounds like a strange combination of words, but if you can be strategic about your engagement, you can actually achieve more. I'll give you some quick examples, then I've got to move on to the next piece. Engagement strategy means taking a look and thinking about people you should be having more contact with or more direct contact with, individuals, people who are in your network, either suppliers, clients, colleagues, ex-colleagues, affiliate partners, introducers, whoever. If you think about them and you think, oh, I really haven't spoken to them for a while, and I haven't seen them for over a year, move from email and messaging to speaking on the phone. Move from speaking on the phone to making an effort and meeting people face to face. And if that's difficult, because you have a lot of people you want to meet, maybe pick a day and say that you're going to be somewhere, and you can meet 10 people in a day if they come to you. Things like that. That's what I do anyway. Engagement strategy means being clever. Somebody has to be thinking about engagement, otherwise nothing's really going to happen. Moving on. An authority is the third piece I can count. You've got reach, you've got engagement, and you've got authority. Now, having a wide reach and lots of engagement, but not saying anything of value, that's kind of pointless, right? So this is being an authority. And I've just looked and I've made sure that there's a lot of books written by my female clients. I've used books just as an example because obviously you can become an authority and a thought leader by doing all those other things. Do you remember? Articles, blogs, podcasts, videos, speaking. Being an authority with a book, it's sort of the king. It's the top of the pile. If you think about it, a hard-hitting, thought-leading, groundbreaking book, a book that says something, a book that turns heads, that is the kind of book that can build credibility for the author. That's why I would say the book is at the heart of a good thought leadership strategy. But hear me now, because people always say to me, oh, Mindy, do I need to have a book? I don't want to write a book. I'm not ready. I don't have time. That's not you, by the way. That's other people. They don't understand how quick and easy it is to write a great book fast, 90 days. Talk to me anytime. But still, some people can't or won't. You can become a thought leader without a book in print, but it's hard. Here's what happens nowadays. So I do a lot of speaking, and I have been speaking for the past 20 plus years. So I've seen the speaker applications and the calls for speakers evolve over time. So I've seen what happens. It used to say on these forms, have you written a book? What's the title? Then it moved to, what is the title of your book? Can you hear the difference? So it's now kind of expected that a thought leader has written a book. And if it's a good book, obviously people will think, wow, that person knows their stuff. Lately, I've seen a few forms that say, list your books here. Luckily, I have a few. But, it's adding pressure. Do you have to do it? No. I think, though, that having at least one good book with your name on it, I call it your flagship book, is really helpful. And if it's a book that you're proud of, your best book, your best stuff, and you know you've really done your best with it, you can be proud of that and you can dine out on that for quite a while. You may want to write more in the future. You may not get around to it. So that's my view on books. The other thing is, I can't prove it, but I do believe that I can prove it. If you have a book, you are more likely to get the gig. Here's why I say this. I had 2 clients at the same time who were up for the same speaking engagement. They were both put forward for the same speech. And one of them got got the gig and the other one did not. So that was interesting in itself. The one who did not had a coaching call with me, and he said, I was upset not to get it, and I asked the client why, and he said, well, we loved both of you. In fact, we probably preferred you. But the other speaker seems to really be the expert in this field. He's got his book. I didn't even hear anything else after that. I'm like, really? He won a piece of business because of the book? Now, as I said, it has to be good, just like anything else you do. If you do a 30-second video, you talking to camera, there's so much that you can put into that. If you do a 30-minute with different camera angles and you've really outlined that and thought about the content and you've got, slides or other visuals, that's a totally different proposition. You can teach a lot more. Same thing with a book. You can only say so much in 23 pages or something like that. So chat with me anytime. I do want to get off of this book subject, but it's a really good way to kind of separate the wheat from the chaff. I hope you can see that. Now, what does it say at the top? You can be a valued authority in anything. I mean it. Look at some of these things. You've got books on marketing. You've got books on people's experience, mindfulness, communication, NLP. You've got books on divorce. Goodbye, Mr. X is getting over your ex. You've got books on retail and China and networking and anything. If you are knowledgeable about it, you could write a book about it. It's a question of what fits in with your brand, what fits in with where you're going with your business, and what book will take you there. What book will take you where you want to be? And again, when I say book, let's just call it Book Plus. So the book, blogs, articles, speaking, videos, it's just too much for me to say every time. Your thought leadership content and your strategy can take you where you need and want to go. That's true. Let's move on. There is no point being an authority and not being bold and opinionated. But when you're being bold, you are inviting the critics to come in. By the way, I will take questions at the end. I should have said that right up front. I tend to get into my stride, and there's always time for questions. I will make sure of that. In fact, I'm putting my watch down here to make sure I don't use all the time with talking. So this guy, again, it could be any of us, walking up to that microphone about to say something a bit controversial, a bit disruptive. I don't know many people who put themselves in the line of fire like this on a regular basis. Some people think they're being bold and they're not. And here's where the rubber meets the road. I did grow up in the States. Here's where the rubber meets the road for you. You have the chance to speak about and write about those things that are so important to you, those things that you really believe in strongly, those things that matter to you so much that you really want to start a conversation and take it with you. Those are the kinds of things that you really want to be exploring. How could you become known in that area? If it's an area that is related to your work, you're in luck. If it's something else, you could have a sideline where you're known for. So, for example, I know a lot of people who, maybe they work in a bank or they work in an export company, but their passion is children in third world countries or, autistic teenagers, or they have another thing that they're not doing for work. It's more charity, a hobby, or, just a sideline. In some cases, people have a goal of turning their passion into a business. I'm not sure who is on the call, and that would be an interesting thing to find out. When we move to the questions, could you also answer my question about whether you are already working in your authority space or whether you are aiming to divert what you're doing and set yourself up as an authority in something else? Because that's possible, definitely possible. But you've got to be prepared to take the criticism, to welcome the haters. And haters, that word didn't exist when I first started this work. I think it's a strong word. Some people they're uncomfortable when you share a radical idea. They don't have to hate you or your idea. Anyway, this is part of it. To be an authority, you have to be willing to say something bold and opinionated, or don't bother. Here's somebody who has shared some really great ideas for teachers and helping them deal with the stress. She's another female leader. She's not a WeConnect member that I know of. She may be a self-registered member. Catherine has been a teacher, and she's experienced burnout, sadly. She got through it, and she now works in the space of helping teachers understand how to take care of themselves so they can take care of the students. It's quite a radical statement. Here in the UK, I think it must be the same in the US and globally, but here there's a lot of stress. So teachers are put upon, shall we say. They have their teaching role, they have their classroom time, they have their objectives and the curriculum and what they're trying to get through and helping the students get to the point where they can do well and move to the next level or pass an exam. There's also a lot of paperwork. There's a lot of bureaucracy. There are a lot of exams for them in the sense that they will be monitored and observed. We have inspections here in the UK. It adds a lot of stress, and a lot of teachers go off ill. They get sick, and they end up taking time off due to stress. It's a big problem. So Catherine noticed this, and of course she'd been through it, and she has chosen to work in this area. She's got some critics. She's had some people, argue with her and question her methods and her material. But I've watched her share her ideas for about at least 6 or 7 years now, about 7 years. And I see her going into big conferences. She's invited to speak because she's not saying the same thing as everybody. She's saying something a bit new and different, making people sit up and listen and turning heads. For me, that's having that bold and opinionated kind of authority that a real thought leader needs to have. That's what I think. The final piece is longevity. No, I'm not going to teach you how to live a longer life. I wish I could. It kind of looks like we're heading for heaven. Just bear with me here. The way you want to think about longevity in this way is having somebody remember you and your ideas for a long time. Having your ideas live on. So hopefully you're going to live a long time. But how about your ideas? How about your IP, your best content? How about your thought leadership? This is where a lot of people in their 40s and 50s start thinking about leaving a legacy. That's not a word that too many people in their 20s and 30s use, although some do. How do you do it? How can you leave your mark? Luckily, there's a lot of ways to capture your thinking and capture your best ideas. I like a physical package. I promised myself I was going to remember to bring one of my books and hold it up at this point, and guess what? I forgot. My point is, my point is I'm human, but my real point is if you create something in a physical package, and this is again why I have a bias towards books in print, or CDs or DVDs. I know people might not play them, they might want the download, but something physical which will sit on the desk, on the bedside table, on the shelf. This is how people will remember you and your ideas for a long time, because you'll leave the room, they'll be on to the next thing, and then they'll see that book and they'll be like, oh yeah, I wonder what she has to say about this topic, and they get engaged with you. It means that the relationship can go on longer. Here's an example. if you do any speaking, and many people have to speak for their job, so they're not a speaker, but you probably have noticed that while you're speaking, people will pay attention. When it's like this, when it's a webinar, I hope people are paying attention because I can't see you. When you're speaking live, they're doing that. But what happens after? What happens when you finish speaking? You know, clap, 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 standing ovation, but then you go off the stage, then there's a coffee break, or the next speaker comes on, or the event ends. And the attendees go to their cars, they get on their phones, they start checking their voicemail and emails before they turn the car on. And they have already begun to forget everything that went on during your session or even during the whole event. It's true, sadly. Longevity means that they can take a piece of you home with them. So this is what I like to say. When I've got a stack of books at an event, of course everybody would like to take me home, but you can't. And here's one of my books. And wouldn't that have been perfect if I had it and I could just hold it up like that? You'll have to imagine it then. If you have a physical reminder of your IP, and again in the book, and you have 200 pages to really get your thoughts across, imagine what it would be like after they get home in their car and they put on their tracksuit bottoms or whatever, and they start flicking through your book, or they go and sit in the bath. They will spend, if it's engaging, if you put your best stuff into this book and if it's good, they'll spend 3 to 4 hours with you. They will take you home and they will spend 3 to 4 hours with you and your ideas. How does that sound? Because it's sometimes difficult. You don't have a lot of time. You have 15 minutes, 20, 30, even an hour. But in a multi-speaker event, you know, they may have seen 10 speakers. But if they then engage with you and your book for 3 to 4 hours, they can relax. There's no pressure. They can read it in their own time. They can read it on the train or in bed or in the bath, as I say. So that relationship can go on a lot longer. Chances are they'll remember you when they have a need for whatever it is that you do. I'm getting to the end now. Here is the key. There is no shortcut. Creation is key. Creating your content is much better than curation. I wouldn't be able to name any thought leaders, real or otherwise, who are content curators. Do you know what I mean by that? So, you know, putting together or repackaging other people's stuff. I'm really talking about creating new content, new and disruptive and exciting and original ideas. It's a choice. You don't have to do it. But if you are willing, then the rewards are great because people remember the creators, not the curators. Did you know you're special? Some people right now are thinking, I don't have anything to say. I don't have anything original. You do. You have your unique story and experience. Only you have been through exactly what you've been through in life and business. Only you are capable of putting that into a lovely package or a thought leadership suite of writing and speaking. Only you can put across your specialness, if that's a word. I can't convince anybody to be a thought leader. I agreed to do this webinar because I wanted to share what I think it takes to be a real thought leader nowadays. It's busier than ever. The marketplace is more crowded than ever. People have less time than ever. And they're a little bit more discerning as well. So you really do have to raise the bar, or I should say the bar has already been raised. You now have to decide if you can leap over that higher bar. And you can do it. You do have something special to bring to the table. Does it require effort? Yes. Does it require a commitment and an intention to step up and be seen? Remember being there at the top of the mountain and making people look, making them look up? Yes. Can it be done? Yes. because I meet people every day who are doing this. So I hope you feel inspired to do this stuff. And if you have any questions whatsoever, you can find my contact details all over the place. I'm very accessible. And one of my favorite lines is, it's always worth a chat. I have a lot of chats. And I just like chatting with people, and we accomplish a lot. So don't ever think you're bothering me. It needs to be booked into my calendar, but it's always worth a chat. Are you ready? Are you ready for the exceptional? That's up to you. Be bold and opinionated, or don't bother. So if you remember nothing else from this webinar, that is the main message I have for you. Now, some people can do this naturally. Some people really need to push themselves. So we're just not used to putting our ideas out in a bold way. We're not used to deep thinking, and we're not used to the extra effort. So it may come easy to you, it may not. Again, you can find all kinds of resources to help on my website and elsewhere. Do connect with me at Mindy GK, and I promise to help you. I'm speeding up now. One thing you're not allowed to do, if you want to be a real thought leader, we said you're not allowed to just do curation and call that thought leadership. I don't think your market would call it thought leadership. Also, real thought leaders create their own content. No ghosts allowed. So if you're thinking, well, I can delegate and outsource my content, I can give people, someone else can do the work and I can just get my ideas out there, I don't think it's going to be as good as what you personally could put out. No, not I don't think, I know. I know that real thought leaders must write their own speeches, books, articles, blogs, or at least put together a really, really good outline and draft and really brief anybody who's doing, if they're delegating or if they're outsourcing, any outsourced freelancers have to be briefed really, really well. Otherwise, it won't be as punchy, it won't be bold, it won't be you, it won't be in your voice, and you won't achieve that profile as a real thought leader in your space. Does it require extra effort? I think you know I'm going to say yes. So you can't outsource your thinking. You know this, but it's just kind of a fun way to remember certain things can be outsourced, certain things cannot. If you need to go to the doctor, you can't send someone else in your place. You can't have someone else brush their teeth and have yours be shiny. And you can't outsource your thinking. I have a few rude ones, but I've left those out. Lots of things you can't have someone else do for you, and thinking is one of them. You can get help. You can improve your chances. Now, if you feel you don't have anything to say, you don't know how to write, you don't know what to write, you don't know if you have any good ideas, you don't know if people will like them, is it any good? You don't have time, how to put things together, and on and on and on, because I've heard all those questions. Have a chat. It's always worth a chat. I have lots and lots of answers. I also have something really special, which I promised to share with you, and then we'll go to questions. If you are a serious player, I have online courses, and I am offering these to you, and only you, at 75% off until the end of Black Friday weekend, basically Thanksgiving weekend, basically the end of November. So for 3 more weeks only, I hope you're watching this in November, $45 instead of $185. And I've done this to make it very, very easy and simple. You can check them out. So I put the course name in black there, How to Be a Real Thought Leader. That's what I've been talking about today. But there's a comprehensive course with about 30 modules. The short link is there, bit.ly Real Thought Leader. And there's a coupon code which will bring the price right down from $185 to $45. The coupon code is real. The same with becoming a thoughtful leader. That's my next level stuff. If you've enjoyed what you've heard today, and if you like the first course, or if you know my material and you just want to jump straight in with the thoughtful leader, that information is at the bottom. bit.ly Thoughtful Leader course. Coupon code is thoughtful. my goodness. I think I've been talking for about 45 minutes straight. I could go on, but I promised to leave time for questions. And I guess Maria will read any out to me if there are any, I guess, and I'm happy to answer anything. So here I am.
Thank you so much, Mindy. And we had a couple questions come throughout the presentation, so I'll start with those. But if anyone else has a question or something that comes to mind, please feel free to post them in the chat, and we'll go from there. So Hannah asked, how much attention should we devote to developing our thought leadership in terms of time per week or time per month?
Really great question, Hannah. It depends on where you want to go, where you are now, and how big the gap is. So, for example, people who are already on a personal development plan, a PDP, will already have some of these things in place, and they'll already have time budgeted to do this. If you work for yourself, it's a little bit different because you manage your own calendar. I think personally, you want to have a half a day a week, so something like 4 hours a week dedicated to your thought leadership strategy, producing stuff, writing, speaking. Now, if somebody's writing a book, we double that. We double that to 8 hours a week, but we don't ask them to do it all in one day. 4 to 8 hours a week out of the 168 hours that we're all given seems like a decent commitment. It's not too onerous, but it will help you make incremental steps. Anything less than that, and I feel if someone's doing less than that, I feel they're dabbling. And, you know, everything's very fast-paced nowadays. So this is my view of what it takes now, and you can make some strides, but it does require that kind of commitment.
Great. And then we had two questions on writing a book, so I'll just bring those both together. So the first question was, if you write a book quickly, like in the 90 days that you mentioned, do you recommend that you take the path of self-publishing? And then the second question was, do you find that you need to follow up with another book in a specific time limit after the first?
So some people, let me answer the second one first. Some people only ever write one book. In fact, most people don't write any books, and then of the people who write books, most only write one. If you write the right book for the right goals that you have, you don't need to produce so many. I mean, my career and my business objectives have changed and evolved over the years, so I've wanted to write more and adjust things. I've changed some of my messaging, but somebody who's doing the same thing and who has a book that's working for them, they can just keep it. I have quite a few clients who have had their main book, their only book, out for 10 years, and they're still using it, and it's still bringing in business, and they're still happy with it. The other question is interesting as well. So that implies that the writing process has anything to do with publishing, which it does not. So let's separate those two things, and let's say the writing, I hope I'm on the left here. Is that the left?
Mm-hmm.
The screen? Anyway, never mind. You've got the writing process, and that can be done in 90 days, or what most people do, which is 2.5 years to write their book and then consider publishing. So the average is 2.5 years, or anything in between. I've also seen people say, oh, I can write my book over a weekend. I'm not personally sure that that is going to be thought through well enough, and that's going to be a good enough snapshot of your thinking. But let's say you write that book in 90 days, 6 months, a year, doesn't matter. You have a finished manuscript. Then we take it over here, and we can publish any way you like. So I'm not a big fan of self-publishing. And I don't know what the person who asked, I don't know what they mean by that. But if what they mean is figuring it out yourself, going online, finding editors and designers and printers and owning it all yourself, the reason why I'm not a big fan is that real thought leaders have to value their time. Real thought leaders also know where they play. Real thought leaders know that they are the expert in an area and that they outsource all the non-core stuff. And that's what we should do, because it frees up the time for us to do our best work and our fee-earning work. becoming an expert in publishing, trust me, I've been in the game for 12 years with my publishing company, and we still don't get it right every time. It is hard. I would say you want to use the professionals, and you do want a publisher simply because of the reach. Global distribution is amazing. So we've had our clients' books translated into Polish, Italian, Chinese, Japanese, Arabic, Spanish, I'm forgetting some, Korean. And we have taken clients all over the world. I take them to book fairs, the books that is. So you lose a lot if you self-publish. That's my view. And I think you can still publish reasonably quickly within sort of 4 to 5 months after finishing a manuscript. We have about a 4 to 5 month lead time. That gives us time to launch a book to the media and lots of other fun things. So have a chat. It's always worth a chat. If you know, before you push that button and self-publish, explore all the different options.
Great. And then last question that has come through so far. I think this came through actually when you had the cartoon of someone standing up on the hill towards the beginning. So in a field where there are already many thought leaders and there are lots of people standing up, how do you differentiate yourself?
Great question. So this is a high quality first world problem, as they say. We had the experience of trying to climb up the hill. So, you know, that's when I said the bar has been raised. It's true, because you do get a lot more experts out there. But where you lift the hood and look underneath and see what's really happening, here's where it comes down to brass tacks. Things like the quality, hard-hitting, thought-leading book, the minimum 160 pages. Usually it's a 200-page book, and with good content, it's going to get good reviews online. So we even do hardback books where the author thinks it's going to make a difference. Also, I started to talk about the videos, the quality of your video. Not only doing Facebook Live or live periscopes and streaming. Really thinking about them, really planning them, having a strategy. Not just blogging when you feel inspired, today, then 9 days from now, then 3 months from now, and having the strategy for the content and really, I guess, doing everything strategically. That starts to make the difference. So the quality and the strategy, and I think the engagement strategy is the kind of secret weapon. So of all the things, being clever and creative with how you engage could actually be the thing that turns heads. I have friends who are marketing consultants and, in very crowded fields and things like that, and they're doing really creative things, the good ones. And the rest, they just sound same old as everyone else, and that's hard.
Great. Well, I don't see any other questions coming through, so I think we'll wrap up now, but I know I speak for everyone when I say this was extremely insightful, and we really appreciate you taking the time to share all of this with us. If you do have questions that pop up after we end, just feel free to either reach out to Mindy directly, like she said, or if you want to send your questions through WeConnect, you can send them along to Mindy. But thank you, Mindy, for your time, and hope everyone out there is inspired to grow their thought leadership.
Go for it.